At this point, I want everybody out. I just cannot.
What do you mean by everybody out?
People that are coming to our country and doing harm, stealing government money,
Yeah, but
marrying
that's
their.
different. If they commit a crime, then
That is a crime, though. That is fraud. Is a
You
crime.
see what she's trying to do? She's trying to wiggle out of actually answering the question, and he doesn't let her. So it's actually a good job by Piers Morgan. On the last show, we talked a lot about remigration since the Trump administration is really using the tragic murder of the National Guard member in D.C. Last week as a pretext to push remigration, even though the shooter was a groomed CIA asset. Nobody wants to talk about that anymore, but it's something I think we should mention as a precursor to this segment here. But yesterday, Secretary Ducklips, Kristi Noem, says, I just met with the president. I am recommending a full travel ban on every damn country that's been flooding our nation with killers, leeches, and entitlement junkies. Wow. I mean, you really can't tell the difference between the rantings of your drunk racist uncle and these people anymore. Like, it's just, they're starting to just use the exact same language. Our forefathers built this nation on blood, sweat, and the unyielding love of freedom, not for foreign invaders to slaughter our heroes, suck dry our hard-earned tax dollars, or snatch the benefits owed to Americans. We don't want them. None. Okay, for the foreign invaders who slaughter our heroes, he was a CIA asset. He was recruited and groomed by the CIA. He was not an invader. We plucked him out of his home population and turned him into what he ended up being, which was a psychotic murderer who snapped and tragically killed a National Guardswoman. That's not a foreign invader. That is a deep state experiment gone wrong for the umpteenth time. Yeah. Okay. But now she retweets this from the official Homeland Security account. Every damn country, the third world countries. So Nick Gillespie.
It's eerie how similar it is.
Exactly. So Nick Gillespie from, I think, Reason Magazine, libertarian writer, makes a good observation. He says, so no more South Dakotans. Got it, right? You're talking about people who leech off of our entitlement programs. Look at that. States paying more federal tax than they receive, and states who pay less than they receive. So in purple are the states who pay less federal tax than they take in. In other words, the taker states. Yeah, North and South Dakota. Kristi Noem, South Dakota, one of the taker states. And oddly enough, look at one of the donor states. They actually call these donor states, you know, the states that actually put more into the federal government than they take out of it, like New York, like California, like Washington. And to be fair, a couple of red states there too, Texas, Florida, Tennessee. But look at up there right near South Dakota, that state just to the right, the yellow state, the kind of big one. That's Minnesota. Minnesota is a donor state. Minnesota contributes more to the federal government than they take back from it, despite the invasion of Somalis that we hear about all the time recently. So here's Donald Trump talking about how the Somalians in Minnesota are ripping us off.
The question behind?
Me? Hi, sir. Happy
Sure.
Thanksgiving.
Hi.
What do the Somalians have to do with this Afghan guy who shot the national?
Nothing, but Somalians have caused a lot of trouble. They're ripping us off for a lot of money. There's a tremendous amount of money going back to Somalia. What the hell are we paying money to Somalia for? But they're ripping off our country at a level that few people have been able to see before. That's about the only thing. You talk about competence. We have Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about our country and our Constitution. And she comes from a country with practically no country. It's devastated, it's crime-ridden, it's a mess, it's a disgrace. And we took their people at a tremendous... We're not taking their people anymore. We're not taking their people. And we're getting a lot of their people out because they're nothing but trouble. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Go ahead.
Wow. Here's Carolyn Levitt expanding on this point, talking about these Somali immigrants who have taken over Minnesota and who are ripping off American taxpayers. Now, remember, folks, Minnesota is a donor state. Minnesota gives more. They generate more tax revenue for the federal government than they take back from the federal government. So keep that in mind as we hear this next piece.
During your topper, you said, and I quote, leaders also have a duty to preserve the integrity and character of our nation's national identity. Can you explain what you mean by our nation's national identity and integrity and character, and how would refugees, people coming from war-torn places who are seeking a safe haven in America, like many of our forebears in this room, not add to our nation's integrity and character of our national identity?
I'll tell you what does not add to our nation's character and integrity is refugees who come here under the alleged plight of asylum and fleeing persecution, and then come to the United States to abuse our system and rip off American taxpayers. And as I pointed out, the New York Times, to their credit, it was about 6 months too late, but they did write about how Somali immigrants in Minnesota have been ripping off American taxpayers. In fact, 86 people have been charged in a rampant and widespread fraud scheme.
86 people have been charged in a widespread fraud. 86, that's widespread. You know how many Somalis live in the city of Minneapolis? 80,000. So you're saying 1 in every 1,000 of them was implicated in this entitlement fraud scheme. That doesn't seem very widespread to me. Seems like a very, very small percentage of Somalis in the city who are wrapped up in this.
Spanning multiple programs in Minnesota. Of those 86, 78 of those people are Somali, 91% of them charged.
Oh, so 78 are Somali and 91. Okay, so now we're down to what, 71? 71 people now? 71 Somalis out of 80,000?
So far, 59 of those people have been convicted for their roles in fraud plots that have
so
stolen
now we're 59.
$1 billion from taxpayers.
It gets lower and lower. It goes from 86 to 78 to 70.
It's like Doge.
To 59. It's like Doge. It's like Doge. So remember, she's talking about 59 people who have been convicted of some sort of fraud crime in a state that, on a whole, gives more to the federal government than it takes. Unlike the Secretary of DHS, unlike her state, South Dakota, which is a taker state, as Elon Musk would say. So obviously, this is not about resources, it's not about being ripped off. This is pretty obvious to everyone that this is about profiling people who we don't like from places we don't like and sending them back based on their race. Plain and simple. That's obviously what this is. But of course, they don't want to come out and say that. They don't want to come out and say that directly, even though Donald Trump walks right up to that line. We don't like them. We don't need them. Here's Nancy Mace going to torturous lengths to avoid answering Piers Morgan's question, because good for Piers Morgan, he tries his best to pin her down on what she finally admits at the end of this clip, which is, if they look suspicious, I want them out. So deportations based on pre-crime based on what? If you look suspicious. But watch how she tries so hard to wiggle out of this.
In terms of action moving forward, there are those who are calling for the deportation of all Afghans who came into the US via the GAW, the Gore program. Do you support that?
I support deporting everybody at this point. I mean, I'm looking at the Somalis in places like Michigan and Minnesota that are using autism money from the government to fund terrorism. At this point, I want everybody out. I just can't.
But what do you mean by everybody out?
People that are coming to our country and doing harm, stealing government money, marrying.
Yeah, but that's different. If they commit a crime, then
that is a crime, though. Fraud is a crime.
See what she's trying to do? She's trying to wiggle out of actually answering the question, and he doesn't let her. So it's actually a good job by Piers Morgan here.
Sorry, just to be clear. No, to be clear, if they commit a crime, yes, I think there's absolutely they should be deported.
There are a lot of
but what about the many people who have not committed crimes who've come from Afghanistan or Somalia?
Well, we have a history in our country of embracing people who've come from war-torn countries and are seeking asylum,
right,
who are seeking those sorts of things. Those are the things that America believes in and we support.
Right. Oh, yeah. But But
we've allowed all these people in who have broken. We've allowed people to illegally cross our border, steal money from our government, and just get away with it.
right. And as Piers Morgan has established now, what, 3 times in the last minute, that's not what he's talking about. He's talking about mass deportations based on suspicion, which you eventually admit, but we're still a ways away from that.
And I'm quite frankly, like most Americans, sick and tired of it. And then I don't want us to turn into Europe or the EU. You're seeing what's going on over there. And
okay, by the way, moron, he is over there. You're talking to a guy who lives over there. We don't want to see what's happening over there where you are in Somali occupied Britain.
If we continue down the path we are in right now, we're going to be just like them, and we can't have that here.
Right, but just to be clear then, because I'm not quite clear what your position is. You would
now is the 4th time he's asking you.
Deport all Afghanis and all Somalians in the United States?
Those who are committing crimes or at risk of committing crimes, I want them out.
At risk of committing crimes. Okay, so we got that out of you finally. Now, what do you mean at risk of committing crimes?
Out of the country.
Those who've committed crimes, I'm with you. But those who look like they're likely to, how do you assess that?
Well, we were just talking about the vetting process. If they look suspicious, I want them out. At this point, I don't even care.
There you go.
I want the safety of our country to be primary concern number one. And that's what President Trump is doing. He's the one that's looking at it. He's cleaning up the problem that Joe Biden created. And I fully support it. I mean, I want to crack down. I don't want anybody coming from any of these countries of concern. I'm fine with stopping all immigration from Afghanistan or Pakistan, these places where people are coming in and appear to try to be doing harm. I want it to stop. We've got to look out for American citizens. We have to put them first.
Okay, so there you go. Finally,
we have introduced what we call the potato salad test. If they won't eat potato salad, they're out of here.
Exactly. Well, that is essentially what she's saying. And he finally squeezed it out of her. That, hey, if you look suspicious and you're from one of these unstable, war-torn countries or crime-ridden countries, that we want you out. But, I could think of one unstable, crime-ridden country that they may be talking about, and that's South Africa. So let's take a look here. This is from Carolyn Levitt's press conference yesterday. Refugee admissions into the country right now are essentially at 0, with the exception, of course, of Afrikaners fleeing persecution in South Africa. South Africa is a very high crime rate. A lot of crime in South Africa. Those are the kinds of countries, with all the crime that Trump wants to keep people out from. But there is one exception. Of course.
That the Trump administration has done more to limit migration, both illegal and legal, than any administration in history. And I'll just walk you through some of the actions that we have taken thus far. Number one, the Trump administration issued a travel ban for 19 countries, including Afghanistan. Special immigrant visas, which is a legal pathway to get here, which we know many Afghans have utilized to come into the country, have now been paused since the tragic shooting last week. Refugee admissions were suspended for Afghans from this administration on day one, and refugee admissions into the country right now are essentially at 0, with the exception of Afrikaners fleeing persecution in South Africa.
I mean, why she would go out of her way to bring that up?
Like, right, no one even asked.
No one even asked. No one even asked you about that. Like, why would you bring that up? That's like in The Sopranos when they're making peace with New York, and then little Carmine blurts out that thing with your kid brother, whatever happened there, and it pisses him off again. He's like, whatever happened there, you're a piece of shit cousin. That's like this. Like, why would you even say that? Nobody even pressed you on that. Why would you?
They're very proud of it.
Yeah, like you're exactly. They're proud of it. Like, I have not seen such overt racism from this government in my lifetime. Now, I'm a young guy. I'm sure people older than me have, right? Because people have lived through some shit that I haven't lived through. I was born in the 80s. I've been paying attention to politics since 2000. I've never seen it this on the nose.
I mean, I guess if you went back to Reagan,
I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure.
And he was very resistant to taking action against South Africa. That was kind of like the final battle over that at that time.
No, sure. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm not saying it's unprecedented. I'm just saying, in my personal experience, I've never seen anything this on the nose. That's how just unbelievable this is. And here are the Afrikaners, by the way. Here are the persecuted Afrikaners arriving safe at last. Afrikaners fleeing persecution in South Africa is like the dumbest thing I've heard in recent memory. To them, it is persecution that they can no longer subjugate their neighbors. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But a lot of crime in South Africa. A lot of crime. South Africa has the world's third highest murder rate behind only Jamaica and Honduras, and 6 times the U.S. average, with no other African nation even close. So if there's so much crime in South Africa and it's so unstable, why are we taking their people in? Well, we're taking in innocent people who want to flee an unsafe country. If they're the white ones. If they're black ones, we don't take them in, even though if you look, official South African crime statistics, that black South Africans are disproportionately represented as both victims and perpetrators of most crimes, especially violent ones like murder. White South Africans, as a percentage of their population, have lower rates of both victimization and offending for most crime categories. The majority of murder victims nationwide are poor, or unemployed young black males. Research indicates that while white South Africans make up approximately 8% of the population, they account for less than 2% of murder victims. Surveys indicate that significantly fewer white South Africans report fearing crime in their homes compared to black South Africans. So if the white South Africans are so persecuted, not only are they victimized less, they fear crime less. They're not living in fear of crime as much as their black counterparts. So if this were not a racist policy, what we would say is, hey, if you're a black person living in South Africa who's not a criminal and you feel unsafe in South Africa because it has a very high violent crime rate, then we should welcome you here, right? I mean, we're welcoming the white ones, and there's far fewer white ones who are victims of crime and who fear being victimized by crime. But no, we're singling out the white ones. That's what Levitt just said. The Afrikaners, they are the exception, not any South African. So if a black law-abiding South African is afraid he's going to be victimized by violent crime, as he is statistically much more likely to be than his white counterpart, he can't come. He can't come. No, we don't want him. We want his white neighbor.
Yeah.
I mean, you tell me what this is. You tell me what this is. I mean, it is unbelievable. And this, like I said, I have never seen such overt racism from the government in my lifetime. And once again, to remind everybody, these are the election results from last month. These are the margins amongst males, females, whites, and the bottom 4 bars on both the left and the right, left being New Jersey, right being Virginia. Those are the margins that Republicans are losing by among non-white voters. Blacks, 94% blue in New Jersey, 92% blue in Virginia. Hispanics, 68 and 67% blue, respectively. Asians, 83 and 79% blue, respectively. This is why. Like, there is absolutely no way you can talk like this and win a midterm, win any race that non-white people are allowed to vote in. As long as non-white people are allowed to vote and their vote is not suppressed through all kinds of fuckery, which it can be, and it has been in the past, and it could be in the future. Like I said, it would not surprise me to see ICE doing election supervising, right? Checking people's papers as they vote, right? They can't win like this. Like, this is just it. I've never seen anything so mask off. And these numbers are going to look mild compared to what the midterms look like if they keep this up. You can't be so overtly hostile to non-white people and expect to win in a country where non-white people represent a decent percentage of the population and they have voting rights. It's just not sustainable. It's not tenable. It's not viable, but they're doing it anyway because this, as we said in the previous segment, this is all they have. They're not opening meat plants. They're closing meat plants. They're not making peace. They're starting war in Venezuela. Like, what else do they have besides this? They have painted themselves in a corner, and the only way out of that corner is to flip the board, because even on immigration, their numbers are underwater now because of shit. Like, most people are not for this. Most people are not for this. There was a new poll that came out from YouGov that said 35% of Americans want less immigration. Well, what that tells you is that 65% want the same or more. This is a very small minority of people who this plays well to. And this is why this administration is just in a downward spiral that they're not going to be able to get themselves out of.
Yeah, far be it for me to go off brand by being an optimist on this show. But I will say this is a case of it's darkest before the dawn.
Yes, of course.
This is so desperate because it's the last stand of these people, and that's why they're going all out and pulling out all the stops. This trick of convincing poor white people, at least you're not one of those people, and keeping them from rebelling against capital through that tactic, that's really as old as the country.
Yeah,
it really is. This is the newest, latest manifestation of it. But in a country where there really aren't jobs for the kinds of people that this is directed at, they have to get increasingly insane and just transparently deceptive in their messaging. When we did those initial stories about the South African genocide, Jesus Christ, did we get it? Jesus Christ, did we get it?
I was putting this together.
So who was that for? Who was that for? Who were these white people, almost all men, when at least in the comments, who are being brainwashed into seeing what's going on in South Africa an emergency, an absolute emergency, a travesty that they need to be deeply emotional about? It's people whose lives suck, who have no prospect for anything better. You got to give them an explanation. That's the function these narratives have always served. It's giving you an explanation. What's the explanation? It's those people. We're going to protect you from those people. And the more time goes on and they don't deliver anything for these people that they've frankly bamboozled, they have to keep coming up with more and more elaborate reasons that they should not direct all that anger at them. At them. Elon, I might do something on this Sunday. His feed is just one post after another about white grievance and white oppression, like more than normal. It's like one after the other, just trying to gin up race hatred. It's the last stand of these people. You know, we were talking about this on the show the other day. Church attendance in the Bible Belt has collapsed. Like this whole white nationalist, distorted, I'm not blaming Christianity, but I think any Christian would agree there is a strain of Christianity that cooperates with this kind of racist white nationalism. And this is a strain that they rely on for their base, but it's collapsing. This is what I'm saying. The next generation is not into this. Any poll will show you that. This is really, it looks dark, but it's the last stand of these people. Most people don't want this. The only way they maintain power is with a coup, which you can't put past them.
Right.
Whether it's an overt coup or a covert one where they just suppress voting in the midterms to the point that the elections are not valid. That's the only way they can stay in power. So the good news is most Americans don't like this.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's 100% right. And I think that is the good news. And I think I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, because we've turned a corner or hit a tipping point, depending on your metaphor of preference. But the tipping point was that Laura Ingraham interview when he defended H-1B visas, and she said, well, we have talented Americans here. And he said, no, you don't. That's the tipping point, because that was the moment at which people realized, oh, wait a minute. There's nothing in this for us, right? There's nothing in this for us. So because at that point, what he's telling you, and that foreshadows this Tyson story that we did at the beginning of the live stream, where, okay, you're closing, these immigrants who work at this plant are getting, put out of work, and several of them are probably going to be deported. Okay, so that means we get to work there. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It means the plant is shut down.
Right.
There's no payoff in this for you. And once people understand that, at that point, anyone who is not left to revel in the mean-spiritedness of it all is going to jump ship. And most people do not revel in the mean-spirit. Most people are not sadistic incel losers like who follow Gunther Riegelman and hang on his every 5-word tweet. That's not the majority of people. That's not a winning coalition of people. But those are the only people left to support what this government is doing, because the people in the middle, the independents, who are now, I mean, Donald Trump is he's 40 points underwater with independents. Anybody who is not ideologically committed to brutalizing people who are less powerful than them and less white than them, frankly, is out. They're out. And you're left with the absolute bottom of the barrel, and you can't win elections with the bottom of the barrel. There's just not enough of them. There just are not nearly, they don't exist in sufficient numbers. That's why they're sweating this election out in Tennessee. The Republican will probably win, but he'll probably win by single digits in a district Trump won by 22 points just last year.
And I will also point out, it's harder with the internet to keep people completely ignorant of the rest of the world, but not impossible, especially given the way that they've seized control of communication by buying up people like Benny in the Closet and getting them to put out certain messages. The way that they paint Europe is absurd.
Right.
Let me tell you, my fellow Americans, if you should be so lucky as to have the quality of life that they have in Europe,
right,
by comparison to what they have here. And every place has its problems. I'm not saying, oh, it's utopia. There's no such thing. To make a perfect society, you would need perfect people, and we don't have those. But by comparison to the United States, the way they paint Europe to naive Americans, oh, yeah, we don't want to be like Europe. Yes, you fucking do.
Of course you do.
Yes, you do. This country is a hellhole. It's a hellhole, man. Like, we were just in St. Louis, man. Like, the crumbling infrastructure, roads that haven't been paved over, the poverty, man. New Orleans, I've talked about this. You got fucking streets that have been so neglected, it's gone back to dirt roads that you can see where the asphalt crumbles, and then there's just no asphalt, and it becomes a dirt road. I have never seen shit like that in Europe. They paint this portrait very much like what they do in New York. Like, oh, yeah, man, you really got to watch out when you go to Europe.
Yeah.
Look, man, if you spent one day there, you'd understand how absolutely fucking ridiculous that is. And they want to keep Americans scared because they don't want them to go anywhere. They don't want them to go anywhere and find out how much they are being ripped off by these criminals. The real criminals are not the criminals they're telling you to worry about. It's not the migrant criminals. It's the people who own these corporations that in turn own you.
Please clap.